for joining us for another episode here with me and Candy Terrazas, my friend.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yes, it has. The last one was your birthday.
Oh, yes, at our retreat.
Yes. Cassell and I were talking about that. He's like, well, we wanted to set up somewhere outside of like the studio. Like he wants to go somewhere and like pop up at like a restaurant or coffee shop. So hopefully we'll plan that in the future. But yeah, that was such a fun memory.
It was such a fun memory.
Such a fun weekend. The retreat was a powerful, incredible time.
It feels like it was eons ago. I feel like there's just been so much momentum with She Is. You know, since the year started, it feels like the retreat was
I know. It
ages
feels like
ago.
It's just, but it also feels like it's just like one thing after another.
It's been exciting.
It has been exciting. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Just our heart behind, you know, She Is and how Candy and I met, you know, just because I think it's kind of what has been the heartbeat of our community is like these organic relationships that blossom and that God really, like, we know, like without a shadow of a doubt, when Candy and I sat in front of each other, we're like,
are you my soulmate friend? Where have you been all my life? And what's crazy is how many times we could have been introduced. We had so many mutual friends for years and years.
And people kept saying, you have to meet Candy. Like, you just have to, you don't know Candy? Like, you have to meet her.
And I would hear the same thing because of how many friends I had that knew you. So I feel like God protected our friendship for the right time. Because had we met years before, I don't know that this would be this, you know?
Yeah, I know. So, I know, it's wild. But yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Before we get into how Candy and I met, we wanted to give a little shout out to our sponsors. So this year we already have 4 sponsors in January that are getting behind our mission, our vision, what we do. And yeah, because our community is growing.
It is.
And so to have this financial support, we're getting support in all areas. We have women who are helping us out to carry the responsibilities, our volunteers, our team who help us with merch and all the different facets of She Is Society and what it's become. And so we also have, just so many things. So to have that financial support really means so much. And I think we have a little graphic here. So,
and just as a reminder for those of you who are new to our community, so we are a nonprofit, and you know the only way the wheels turn within us and all that we're able to do and the people we're able to reach is with people who sow into us. And so we're super grateful for our newest sponsors.
Yes, we are. So we have Denise, which we shouted her out in our last episode, and she's been a part of the community for a few years now and involved in just her own church and doing so many great things. And then we have Patti and Jason, who are a couple who are also business owners of Apex Smart Home. And then we have Aries Pet Paradise, whose Deja Grant this is her business. I believe she just kind of kicked it off a few years ago, but it's thriving, it's doing well. And I know it was a challenge for her to like sow into this, but she did it in faith. And she's like, look, God told me to do this, so I'm just going to trust the Lord. So we're super excited that we even have a place where women can be obedient to what God is inviting them into, and just knowing that where your money is being sown, like it's really making an impact and a difference in the lives of women and even the lives of these women, because that's why they're all a part of our community. And that's why it's just, I wouldn't say easy for them to open up their pocketbook, but
they've been impacted.
They believe in it.
And I think a lot of it has been, as like God's put it on your heart to open up more opportunities for connection and community. We've got to, you know, meet more women. We've got to grow and understand, you know, how to partner with women in the new ways, you know, as new people are coming alongside us. And so I think these socials, you know, as they're starting to, you know, women are starting to have experiences where they feel like they're developing and growing in their faith. You know, it's been part of the mission by sowing into it.
It really has been. And the last sponsor is Priscilla, and she's the owner of Dominion Style and Lash. And so she's got these suites where women come and set up, and they do makeup, lashes, and all the beauty works.
Yeah, she's a boss.
So she is a boss, and she's amazing too. And I just love our community. Like we have such amazing women, like all different walks, all different ages, ethnicities. Like the diversity of our community today, from when we first started, is just so incredible to see. Like all the women that God has drawn to us, because I'm like, God is not drawing them to us. He's drawing them to himself.
Yes.
And so we really just believe that.
We're the vessel.
We're just the vessel, you know, and it's just been such a beautiful privilege to be a part of that.
It really has been.
And so I want to talk about how we met. So we had a friend introduce us. We went to brunch
So
was it
yeah,
called?
so and this is like, I guess, one of the key takeaways of even this conversation is you have to get out of your comfort zone and put yourself in spaces where like you pray to be at the right place at the right time with the right people, because God will be so faithful in connecting you. I think so many times I'm talking to women and they're like, oh, I need more godly friendships, or I want to be around more positive women. Yet they're not doing anything to intentionally put themselves in those environments. And so we actually met like that. I was at a
Yeah.
women's event at my previous church, and Edith was invited. Actually,
Yeah.
had been invited a couple times,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I had been, and I think I had been maybe once before, but then I went with Amanda and then Zuli, and then that's how
And
we
what's
connected.
funny is, so we have a few mutual friends. Amanda calls me. She's like, hey, my friend Edith is going to come, but I'm running late. Can you greet her? And I'm like, yes. And I knew the name, but I'd never met you.
Yeah.
But I knew the name. So I went and intentionally went to go look for you. And it was so cool.
It was.
The dynamic of just, we didn't get even to talk about how much we had in common until
We
later,
didn't, right.
but there was just an instant connection.
There
and
was.
we even went up, you guys were only 2 weeks into marriage.
Yes.
10 days
that's
into
right.
marriage.
Oh
So
my
we went up for
gosh.
prayer for your pregnancy to
Yes.
come.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot about that part.
Yes.
That is so true.
'Cause at the time, I think you
It
had
was
gotten
so
negative reports
specific.
from the
Yes.
doctor.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And
that
it
is
was
so
your heart's
crazy.
desire to have a baby. So we went up and we prayed over her
Oh my
womb.
goodness.
And
We did. It was so
That was day
specific,
one of our
too.
friendship,
I
guys.
think, yes, it was day one. I
Yeah.
mean, and here we are with the baby and, a thriving marriage. And
Yes.
it's just been amazing from how much has happened in our friendship and everything that we've been able to do together.
Yes.
Even when we had the baby and you came and brought the pack and play and
Yes.
you sat in my room because I was still on in bed rest. And Yvonne prayed for us. So I mean, to have friendships like that, y'all, it really makes such a difference in your
it makes
lives.
life so much more meaningful.
It
when
really
you get to
does.
partner with people that God has designed you to do life with. And I
Yes.
think about that. If you're not putting yourself in those spaces, who's out there that He has for you, that's going to champion you to your best, that's going to love on you, be there for you. And it was so. I remember. So we connected. It was the function, and we didn't get to really talk. But we're
Yeah.
we need to set a coffee date.
Yes, yeah.
And it was just crazy how
It was.
much we were
We
on
had-
similar journeys
Yes.
and at a similar
Yes,
season in
that's so
life,
true.
our surrender season.
Yeah.
God was telling us
I know.
all from being big bosses in our businesses. And
Put it down.
Yeah.
What? It's so true. So many similarities, and to be able to walk through that together, and even just one of the things too, I think that to remind women is that women hurt women. Women
Yeah.
have hurt women in the past. In fact, my little cousin sent me this meme, and it said, what is tell me a comment or a quote that women so easily fall into, and it was when mean girls plan a brunch and call it women empowerment. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I know, because if you think about it, I think women, we all have good intentions, right?
Yeah.
But when you start to connect with other women outside of God, without God being the center of your relationship, it can get really messy, because hurt people, right? And if you don't know how to see people, or how not to carry offenses or hold on to offenses or get offended easily,
Right.
you and I can both agree that we don't agree on everything, but we have this mutual respect and love and
Yes.
admiration for each other, that we don't allow our indifferences to keep us
That's
separate.
right.
In fact, we see where we are both strong and weak, hey, I'm not good at this, but you are, can you help me? And vice
Yes.
versa. And we use that and harness that to really move forward in our purpose, because
That's right.
I know in the past I wouldn't even know how to move past that, because I'd be so stuck in my hurt that it's I couldn't even
Yeah.
see past the hurt and the offense, to allow myself to see the better part in someone, and then actually say, you know what, let's walk forward
Yes.
and use this for kingdom,
Well, it's we were texting or joking, but you were like, oh, that was me. I didn't like women either. And I was literally laughed out loud. I was like, ha ha, look at you now.
I know, it's crazy.
It's just, because at the end of the day, that is, if you're hurt by women, if you're hurt in friendships, it's natural to want to go into places and be resistant on how much do I want them to know about me? Are these people for real, or is it a show? Are they really for me? Is this a safe space? There's all these things that are natural and should be questioned until you pray and you ask God, okay, God, help me put the walls down. And if it takes brick by brick, then that's okay too. It's just, getting to that place where we like have the desire to want to trust again.
Yes,
Because it starts there.
absolutely.
You have to like want to be able to genuinely say, I want to be able to trust friends again. I want to be
Yeah.
able to trust women.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I love you always say like we find our purpose in people. And if we don't allow ourselves to kind of see past those indifferences, we really miss out on connecting with the people that are going to help us to get to that next
Yeah.
place that God has for us.
That's
and I
right.
think a lot of women, you know, there's a lot of reasons why women don't step into their calling, but one of the big reasons is that they cannot see past those indifferences, so they
Yes.
will just not move
They
forward because
decide-
they're like, you know, I mean, I wanted to throw in the towel. I don't know how many times because I'm like, this is too hard working with all these women. Like,
Yes.
it's a constant mirror of seeing like where you need to grow, where you need
That's
to
right.
love more, where you need to give more, where you need to be more compassionate, more
Mm-hmm.
patient, more understanding, you know? So it's like, oh, there's so much ugly stuff I see. I still need to work on. And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But then with God, you're able to not like give yourself grace and then use those to strengthen just your faith and your
Yes.
character and like all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
it's really just an opportunity to be more like him, like really praying and asking God to give me eyes to see the way you see. Because
Yeah.
when those offenses come up, it's like, I don't think you ever get to a place where all of a sudden you're like this holy person you don't have
Right.
on, but like those offenses are going to come up. It's what do you do with them? Where is that coming from? What is this triggering? You know, what do I need work on? Where do I need
Yeah.
healing?
Yeah.
And being able to move forward and trust that
Yes.
he's going to work through the process.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was sharing with you before we started was that video that I saw right before we started the podcast about Sarah Jakes, where she was asking or talking about the, you know, us being tested or tempted. And she said, you know, say in the comments what you do to fight against temptation. And someone commented and said, there's strength in numbers. And I fight temptation by being in community, you know, and we always say this because we know, and I think it's worth repeating,
Yes.
that the enemy wants you in isolation because he knows that when you're far away from community, there's no one to hold you accountable. There's no one to call you higher. There's no one to point things out that perhaps you shouldn't be doing, you know, and there's no one to pray for you. And there's no
Yes.
one to, you know, just say, hey, it's going to be okay. Let's dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and let's keep going, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a scripture that speaks specifically into that woe is the one who is by themselves
themselves,
that
yeah.
falls, and there's no one there to pick them up. So I think just remembering that, and as much as you want to, like, whenever you're tempted to run away from community, that's where you really have to ask
That's
yourself,
right.
like, Lord, how do I get, you know, how do I
Yeah.
get past this, and what's going on? What's going on internally that I need to work on to get to the place where, you know, I don't need to be offended, right?
Yes, and even I think when people are navigating through feelings like depression or sadness or heaviness, and they can't figure out where it comes from, the next question that I would ask is who are your people? Like who's your community? Who are you connecting with? And there's a strong chance that, you know, a lot of time the response is, I don't really have someone. I don't really have a group. I mean, I have friends, but, and there's like some kind of reasoning, they're old friends or they're in a different place in life. And so that's oftentimes the solution to why you feel that heaviness, because we're not meant to be alone. Like it's
Yeah.
not good for men to be alone. We need to be in community. I mean, iron sharpens iron. If
Yeah.
we're not with other people who are sharpening us and
Yeah.
making us better, and then in turn being that for someone else,
Yeah.
then
And
we
we're
will
dull. We're a dull blade.
Yes.
Cutting through anything.
Butter knives.
Don't be a butter knife. Oh, that's another
That's a great shirt.
Another shirt, Shelby. Don't be a butter knife. So I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the leadership cohort that we
Oh
just
my
had.
gosh, yes.
Because we wanted to share about that and why we're so passionate about leadership. And I also want you to talk a little bit about kind of what's going on with you in this season, because I think that speaks a lot into like your heart for
Yes.
leadership and like how we're even here today, you know?
Yes, yes. So the leadership cohort, if you weren't part of this one in January, it was our very first one. So she is decided this year, it was like, you know, this year I really want to be intentional at helping people who know that they're called to lead wherever that is, in their home, in their work environments, building businesses, in their ministries, and getting them sharper, right? So we're
Yes.
thinking like leader mentality, and how are we going to be intentional about that? And so it was a very powerful time. I mean, we
It was,
had
yeah.
a mix of women there that are just new, like, I want to be a rooted leader. I want to be a leader who is doing what God called me to, and I want to be a leader who doesn't give up when it gets hard.
Yes.
And that was just, you know, really with this first session just set the precedence for what these next following
Yes.
sessions are going to be on. We're going to dive deep. You don't want to miss this next one,
Yes.
because we're going to go into, practical teachings, not just, how to, not just being from the leadership standpoint of things that you can read on a book or a podcast,
yeah.
but like practical application.
Yeah, like workshop style. Yeah, because the first one was a lot of teaching moments because we just really wanted to lay the foundation and really focus on like what is most important and prioritizing our time and where are we giving most of our time to, and really even just evaluating that part of our lives, because a lot of women were really surprised of where they were putting most of their time in.
Yeah, and I think it's just asking yourself that question: am I living a life by design or by default? And when you're like, wow, man, I'm not living out what I know I'm supposed to be doing or what I want to be doing, it's usually by default. So it's falling back into that pattern of how to break out of those patterns.
Yes. And one of the things that we're going to talk about memberships a little bit, but one of the ways that you can access the content, that the recording for that cohort event, so you don't miss out on anything, is by becoming a member. We have a space specifically for our members where they will be able, hopefully, we want you to attend in person because there's just something really special about being in person at these events. But if you're not, you can still grab this content and just get plugged in and rooted, because I think the things that we're teaching are really contradictory to what the world is teaching, right? But when you really align yourself with these teachings, because we are using biblical teachings and trying to set that foundation so that we are doing things in the right order. Because really, for me personally, I'm really passionate about the leadership cohort because I feel like I've spent so many years focusing on the wrong things. And when God finally worked on me to prioritize things in the order that was important for him, then I was able to get a better understanding and direction on what he wanted me to do. But one of the things I say is how are we going to know our purpose if we're not linking up with the one who knows our purpose and who planned our purpose?
And I think in the church world, I think sometimes people can stifle their potential using that in the name, I'll use this is not the right time, because of this, and we use those churchy feelings to stifle us. But we also have to go back to what the word says. He says that you're the head and not the tail, that you're above and not beneath, and that your storehouses will be overflowing. And that sounds a lot like a leader to me. And so if we're going to be that, we're going to be the head and not the tail. It's how do I do it according to the way he's asking me to do it in my home, with my family, and this business idea, and those things that stir in my soul, and doing it in excellence.
Yeah. And I think, one of the scriptures, gosh, I wish I would have had it here. Y'all know I'm really bad at regurgitating scripture, but it's the one that I shared at the cohort about God having a specific plan and purpose for each and every one of our lives, and how oftentimes we just miss the mark because we're not paying attention, we're distracted, and it's true. I mean, life is set up to really just distract you and keep you away from the purpose and the plan that God has for you, because we have to remember that there's two paths, and there's one that is really just has our plan laid out for us, right? And we just have to walk into it. And then there's another one that is no, don't go there, because that's this abundant life that God designed for you, and it's amazing, and it's fruitful, and it's meaningful. And over here is distraction, meaningless, unfulfillment, discontentment, sadness, confusion. What am I supposed to be doing?
Yes.
And the root of that is that we don't know because we're not in the Word, right? And so we just kind of want to remind of what is important. How do we as women, when we're so busy, how do we make time for God, right? And what does that look like in each of our lives? Because I'm getting up at 6 a.m. right now, but that might not mean that Candy wants to get up at 6. Maybe she's doing it in the evening, or maybe she has time with her family, or maybe whatever that looks like for each and every one of us. I think the bottom line is that I want to make sure that we're all at least remembering that, hey, we need to make time for God. It's important. And putting the work behind that, because all of it is work, right? All of it requires a plan, a way to get there, and then the effort behind it.
And that's kind of what we spent time on that leadership cohort. It was evaluating where your time is going, your time and energy, and where you want it to go. So there's an ideal, if I could have the perfect life, this is what it would look like, and yet this is where my life is today. And we did that because we have to have a plan. And that's what one of the things that I want to walk through at one of our leadership cohorts in March is how are we going to make time for that? Sometimes it looks like time blocking, for the things that are important to you. It's not enough to say, I want to have a deeper, faith. I want to have a stronger relationship with God. It's not enough to say, I want to be a present mom. It's not enough. We have to be, okay, what are the actions going to look like behind that? And what is the one thing that I can do today to meet that,
to that. Yes,
and
absolutely.
So it's just one step at a time, but we've got to have a plan behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any comments or questions
Marissa donated stars, gave stars.
Oh, nice,
Hey.
Marissa. Thank you for the
I'm
stars.
so excited for these opportunities for growth. So many practical tasks I'm applying from the first leadership.
Oh,
Aw,
that's
thank
amazing.
you for sharing.
Who was that?
That was Marissa.
Oh,
Aw,
Marissa.
thank you,
Yes,
Marissa.
Marissa, thanks.
And Marissa was part of our Lux event.
Yes, she was.
So for those of you that were connected to us a couple years ago, we had a leadership event. So you know, leadership is a big part of our heartbeat,
Yes.
like as people. So this is just
Because there's not a space for it.
There's
Like if you think
not.
about it, I mean, not that I know of, but I just feel like it's so needed.
It's
'Cause it's like,
needed.
who's pouring into us?
Exactly. And I remember that, like, when I, when I was a new Christian and stepping into the workforce, I remember feeling like, man, everything that's available, all the Bible studies, all the things are during the day, in the middle of the week. Like, where do people who are busy working and wanting to be moms and all the things, like, where do you get fed? And so this
Yeah.
is like it is really a needed space,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who are pursuing some very mighty things. But how much mightier could it be if they were connected to the right people, if they were putting their faith as a priority,
Yeah.
and they're linking arms with people who want to see them win?
Yes, absolutely. I love that point because it's like it's going to be challenging. So where is a place where we can go and just be encouraged and
Yes.
refreshed, because it's like, man, it gets hard, and like me wanting to throw in the towel all the time, but if I had a place that I could just get plugged in and be reminded of like why you're doing this, because
Yeah.
for so long I was just trying to figure it out for myself. So we're hoping that this space is really a place that will strengthen women and that will just get them there a little bit quicker. It's all in
Yes.
God's timing,
Yes.
but I think that the reason why I didn't get to where I could have been sooner is because I was just like had nowhere to look to or no examples or no one really leading the way or
That's
a
right.
space like this,
I think of sponsors, these women who are coming to these events and they're getting filled up. Like, what is that doing in their work environments? They're going back with a full cup. They're going back,
Yes,
like
yeah.
they're people that probably want to be around them because they
Yeah.
are being filled. And so, it
Yeah.
is just, what part are you doing to keep your cup filled? And who is it influencing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. So definitely you ladies have to get plugged into the cohorts.
Do you want to share how the memberships work?
Yeah, I will share that because it is a new thing that we have going on this year. But the memberships are essentially a way for you to get the most out of what we're doing because we are having so many events and we're
Yes.
going to be adding more
More
events.
events.
Yes. So the membership there's two options, and you can actually go to our website, and this membership is a monthly fee, and this will allow you to get a handful of perks, and the two different options are pretty much itemized as far as what the difference is in those
Yes.
perks. But you get discounted tickets. You get to we're doing a grant, $1,000 grant for women that we want to do
Yes.
pretty frequent throughout the
we
year.
gave $1,000 grant last month to
Yes.
one of our members who is building a ministry. And so it's just such a
Yes.
blessing that, just through your memberships, we're able to do that, to contribute to those who are doing things, and that little extra boost, that blessing, that $1,000, like
Yes.
where is it going to move their mission?
And again, going back to like what I needed, I'm like, man, it would have been amazing if when I first started, I had a little chunk of money to just kind of like, just not like wondering like, where was this money going to come from, but actually
Yeah.
having someone sow into us in that way. And even what was the other thing I was going to say? Because it's like a bunch of things.
Yeah,
but-
you get a lot of perks. So you get the discounts on the tickets. Also, the app itself, like the
Yes.
connection in the community. So right now, Edith is leading the Bible studies that she's talking about 6 a.m. So people within the community that are hopping on,
Yeah.
it's that additional, because a lot of it's like, yes, these events are fantastic and you need to be there, but how do we deepen the relationships? And a lot of it
Yeah.
is like, you're connecting with these women to be able to have access to them and connect with them on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. If you wanted to, it's
Yeah.
available for you.
Yeah, and it's just another tool, right? The community app for us to be able to go in there and just update, and even the replays for the Bible studies are being uploaded there. The members only space is in there, and so
Yeah.
that is open to anyone who wants to join, and then the content that we'll be
Yes.
doing. So we just have a lot of things coming down the pike with events, workshops, more things that we'll be adding to our schedule that we haven't yet, that we're still working on, but we want to really just help women develop, even just in the business. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but even just creating their websites, their landing
Yes.
pages, their link trees, like, okay, yes, I have this dream, but I don't know how do I make a logo? Like, just getting you to get unstuck in those little ways so that you can have something and start somewhere, because it's better to have
Yes.
something.
Somebody in the room's done it before. Like,
Yes.
why go through the headache? And I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of like these leadership events, these leadership cohorts that we're doing on a monthly basis. It's, you know, or have the experience. They're thinking, you know, ahead and
Yeah.
planning for their future.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get more information on our memberships on our website. But if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to
Yeah,
reach out.
reach out
If you
to
want to
us.
come out to an event before you become a member, or you can also comment member and we will send you a message. Shelby is on our chat there, making sure that everyone is just getting the information that
Yes.
they need, and she'll send you a message. But yeah,
We're excited. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
there's
are.
just there's a lot of movement. I was telling I don't know who it was that I was saying recently. I was like, it's just so exciting because I literally see God has just like breathed in these ideas like overeated
Yeah.
like since like October-ish. I just feel like there was like this new momentum that was just building up inside
Yeah.
of you, and it's exciting to see when it's God at work. Like
Yes.
you're one person, you have a lot of
Yes.
things going on at home, babies, all these things.
Yeah.
And yet it's just growing, and it feels like that snowball effect, right? Like
Yes,
it's just
it
that,
does.
you know, the growing, and then
Yeah.
before you know, you'll be at the top of the hill, and it's
Yeah,
like boom.
I know, and I love that you can see that, because that's exactly what I feel too. It's like all these ideas, and I've had ideas in the past, and they were just kind of like, oh, I don't know if that was the idea, you know. But this time, it just feels like it's God. Like,
Yeah, well, it's a testament to
Him,
His
you know?
timing, right?
It
Like
really
in your
is.
obedience, like how much have you been doing for years in your faithfulness and your
Yes.
obedience?
Not
that
throwing in
He's
the
like,
towel when it
okay,
got hard,
you know,
all the-
and nothing goes to waste. You know, that's why
Nothing,
a lot of
nothing.
people who are stepping into these spaces, we're encouraging them to keep going, because it's. Sometimes we say it's like, oh, maybe it's a sign and it's not right. Like, no, like just be obedient. It doesn't have to
Yes.
look like the way you think it's going to look down the road today. You know, your yes just might be yes, just not the final version of
Yes,
it, right?
yes.
It's the thing that'll
Yep.
take you to the thing. And
Yeah, because I love it's like sometimes God will allow you to fail forward, you know, because there's a lesson in that. And I think sometimes when we fail, we just kind of want to throw in the towel
Yeah.
rather than just like, okay, this is part of the process. Like
Yeah.
there's like, I think
there's more
success,
growth in the failures than the
There
wins,
is,
you know, and
yes.
that's hard to hear because nobody wants to fail. But the
Yeah.
reality is, you've got to learn those things that He needs you to learn to go step into the purpose that He has for you, whatever that is. You know, like, you know, for you, you know, your years of owning the gym, and then when you finally
Yeah.
surrendered, so there were some business skills, there was things that you had to go through, the identity, that not being your business isn't your identity,
Yeah,
you know, the things
right.
in ministry, learning how to
Yeah.
lead teams and not lead them, and you know,
Yes, so
the
many
intense
things.
fellowship between the women. Like there's been a lot of heartache along the way, and in it, it's made you better for this moment.
Yes, so true. That is so true. And I love that you've been able to witness all of that, because you
It's
were
a
like,
blessing.
you know, from back in 2017, 18, when was it?
Remember, I got roasted at my very first She Is meeting. Oh my gosh, we'll save that for another
We've come
day.
a long way, but yes.
so red.
Oh my gosh, welcome.
Welcome. I'm like, what is this?
to the Mean Girls Club, right? You're like, what did I sign up for?
We've come a long way, guys.
We have, but you know what? Even in that, like working through all of those things that you think are like, oh yeah, this is the right way, and it's God's like, wait a minute, like, is this really the right way? Like, do
Yeah.
you want to see longevity in your business? And it
Yes.
really is about relationships.
And
you know?
even just like trusting Him, right? You know, not picking up offenses, but if God is putting you in a space, you have to trust Him, even if it's hard, even if you don't like your boss, even if you don't love the team, even if you're not sure how you felt about that specific meeting. If He said to be there, you got to be there.
Yeah, that is so.
You know,
yeah,
it's
mic
not-
drop. That's it. The
Right?
end.
Okay, we're
If He
done.
said to be there, and that's what I always tell the girls. Look, if I don't want you to be here because Edith said, I want you to be here because God called you here, because then I have nothing to contend with. Like it's like,
Yeah.
well, God told you, girl. I mean,
Well,
you
and
can't-
that's when people like they're the you know, you start feeling that intense
Yes.
fellowship because people feel like, oh, nothing pleases and all this stuff because they're doing it to you. When it's to God, it's like,
Yes.
hey, if you've been released from this mission, that's okay. Like I bless
Yes.
you. Like wherever you feel called to go serve, maybe it's your family, whatever. It's. Are you leaving for the right reasons? Are you staying for the right reasons?
Yes, absolutely.
Vanessa
Yeah. Yes.
says, is the next cohort touching on different topics?
Yes.
Yes, it is going to be a different topic. We're actually going to continue the teaching on imposter syndrome. So
we're excited.
Yes.
So here, you guys definitely need to connect and stay plugged in. Sarah's teaching tomorrow on imposter syndromes. You have to be at our social. And what we want to do with these leadership cohorts is go deep on. So tomorrow you're going to get like very surface level teaching. It's going to be super good, but we're going to dive deep in where not only are you feeling or dealing with imposter syndrome, but who can you equip and help that's dealing with it. Because if we're leaders, it's not just for us, it's for the people we're called to lead.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, if you can make it to the social, you definitely want to come, because that's going to be kind of the set the foundation for imposter syndrome. Because believe it or not, I personally believe that 99% of women struggle with this, because it doesn't matter how seasoned you are, there's always that doubt that is planted that it says you're not good for enough, you're not built for this, like this is not, like, who do you think you are to do something like this, and so I think
the number one studied fear is rejection. That's why if you take in the polls, they say what's the number one thing people are scared of. They often say like public speaking or speaking in public, and it's not even about that. It's the rejection that they can get if they go up there and do it. So rejection is really a big part of the root of imposter syndrome.
And I think it's just going to uncover so much. Sarah's teaching, and when she did it at the Lux,
she did a portion of our training at Lux, and it was so good, and so many ahas. Everybody walked away with, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what it was, but I have this in this part of my life, or this is what I've been struggling with my whole life, or my mom had it, or I picked this up from. It's going to be really good. So the leadership cohort's going to go deep into that.
Yes, because we want all of our events to kind of ebb and flow. We want them to, go hand in hand. But the leadership cohort is going to be more of application, more of like the work, more of like, let's what do we actually need to do to identify unpack it, and then work on it, right? Work through it, walk together in community with it, share others' experiences, because I feel like when others share, you're like, oh shoot, like I struggle with that too,
and knowing that there are actual ways to walk it out. It's not enough to hear it. Like, you've actually got to take action. The only way things change in any situation is with action. So coming to these events are great, to listen to, but what is application? What are you going to do to act it out so that way things can change?
Yes, absolutely. And so before we close, the last thing I wanted to ask you was just like, if you could share with us what God is doing in you, because we talked a little bit about She Is, but you also have a lot going on in your sphere of the world.
Yes, it's been really exciting. So last year I stepped into the coaching world, and it has been a phenomenal journey in that I am just putting myself in spaces that are challenging me to think bigger, to help lead people at a bigger level. And one of the things I'm really excited about, so I'll be doing the March social and leadership cohort. And one of the things I want to dive deep on is gaining clarity around your confidence, and how, not only just being confident, but also, where are the areas that you can be refined in. And one of the things that I'm, through coaching is neuro-linguistic programming, and just reprogramming our brains and how they're rewired. God made our brains so incredible that we don't have to live with our insecurities. We don't have to live with our fears. We don't have to live with our inadequacies. We can actually change the way we look at them, and to completely change the trajectory of our life. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that, and just putting myself into lots. It's been really like a year and a half of a ton of training. I do spend a lot of time in the training world with health and wellness, so I help a lot of people get unstuck with their unhealthy habits and patterns and stuff. So that's another area. I'm going to a training in a couple weeks to help walk women who are at different seasons in their life, whether menopause or unhealthy relationships with food. And so, I'm kind of like all over the place, but those are like where my heart beats, and walking people through the health and wellness arena and then the leadership arena.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds so amazing. And you're so like built for it. So when I see it's again like the similar paths, like God is just like opening doors for both of us in our own realms,
He's so faithful.
And to still be able to do this and encourage other women to step into everything that God has for them, because I think that's why we're so passionate about this, because we see what God is doing in our own lives and how fulfilling it really is.
When we were talking about just like, really it all comes through because of the moments of surrender, right? When we have surrender our own plans, our own, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do. And God said,
sounds good. They're great ideas,
and even
right?
if God told us to, it's like, there's times that you're released from a mission, and it's also okay to trust him in something scary and unknown. If it excites you, it's probably him that put it in you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of that, is the excitement of, the unfolding, right? Like you have to, that first step is hard, no matter what it is. Like you don't know. I mean, you can fail. That is the reality of the potential. Like it's an option, right? And you won't know unless you try. So it's just cool being able to trust him and seeing like, man, like this really was his plan for me.
Yeah.
Like he is opening up spaces. And I just had to take that first step. I've had so many I've been all over the map, like professionally. I've worked corporate. I've started businesses. I've done MLMs. I've done like all these different things. And I think like if I were to be stubborn and stuck, I'd probably maybe, by the world's definition, be successful, but I'd be miserable if I'm not living in my purpose.
That's so
how would I
good.
show up at home, and what would that model to my children if I had a job that was just like providing, but I was unhappy?
Yeah.
Like it's, for me, that's where my faith has been stretched, and I guess why I've continued to like be able to take those risks is your faith is stretched every time you trust him. Every time you're like, okay, I'm going to lay that down, even though it doesn't make sense, God, even though like, I don't know why you're doing this. I'm not ready, but I know you're saying, and your faith just begins to stretch and stretch and stretch to where now like it's so audible that I know it's him, that even though I'm like, gosh, it's not going to be, it's going to take a while, or financially it's going to, you know what? It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about my plan. Like he said, and that's
that I got to do it.
Yeah,
That's
I gotta
it.
do it.
Yeah.
Drea
That's
says
so
she's
true.
excited about this next social.
Yes, Drea.
Drea.
Oh,
We're
Drea, yes,
excited.
we'll see you there tomorrow.
Don't you invite people, babe?
Yes. So
Friends.
bring friends. We want as many people. We want to pack the house down.
we
so
are. I know we're like filling out that space. I'm like, can you put chairs outside? And
yes,
inside?
we
And
really should.
I know, but yeah, we'll make it work. We can sit on each other's laps. We'll make room for y'all.
Yeah, and bring people. I mean, this is really like, some people would never sign up for something like this on their own unless they were invited. So as we're saying this,
personal invites too, even just sending a friend an invite, and just think about how you came, to find us, that a friend invited you. Like, who could you think about that could really benefit from being in this room and in this space with us, and to just come and grow with us. So yes, definitely tomorrow, the social at 6 p.m. You want to be there. Don't miss it. And
Men's Bible study?
oh yeah. My husband started a men's Bible study every Tuesday, and it's at 7 a.m. And there's the address. And
can they join on Zoom too, or this?
No, it's just in person.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's just in person. But he had 25 men show up
That's
for the first one.
phenomenal.
So
And they got
women,
24/7.
you've been asking, hey, when's your husband going to do something for the men? There it is. Send your husbands, wake them up. Come on, off you go.
I got the morning duties. You go.
Morning duty, yes. So there's that information, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you for sponsoring us.
Yes, just thank our sponsors again. And if y'all need photography, anything really renovations related, Smart Water, Apex are going to be your people. And then Aries, she actually does grooming, but she's doing a little bit, she's telling me about her business. And so she's doing grooming, and she's breeding cats and like all animal stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
I love that. And
Hey,
then
Melissa says, everything I'm learning from trying to take back to the women's ministry we're trying to build at our church.
Who's that?
Oh, I
Melissa
love that.
Marie.
oh
I
yeah,
have my
that's
pastora
amazing.
joining as much as she can. We want to take all this back to the women of our church.
That
Yes.
you are a leader. Seriously,
Yeah.
being able to take the tools and equip others, like that's
Yeah,
what it's about.
That's amazing, and that's
Hello,
what
Ann
we're
Reyes
here
says
for.
Hello.
Who?
Ann Reyes.
Hi, Anne.
Ann.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It means a lot to us to just have you a part of this community. And so we just wanted to sit together, chat, spend time together. This is like how we spend time together. It's like
All things kingdom
all
building.
things kingdom.
Hey,
Yes, I love that.
Veronica Rodriguez,
Veronica,
yeah, she
yes.
just celebrated an anniversary.
Yes, she
18
did.
years.
18 years, 15 years.
Yeah,
I was
the
telling
15
Selma
in
when you said
November.
it at the cohort, I was like, my friend's been married 15 years. That's amazing. And
In November,
Veronica,
yes.
18 years.
18,
So I
that's
love
Person
that.
at Candace Roast.
Wait, Veronica, you weren't there, were you?
Oh, she
She
wasn't.
was laughing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, she wasn't.
She wasn't there yet, girl.
Yeah.
You just missed it. We'll roast you next time.
I'm happy. I'm happy to say the roasting is
Roasting days
back
are
in the day,
behind
are
us.
behind us. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. But yes, we'll definitely share that one day. But yes, no, thank you so much for joining us. We'll hope to see you at the social tomorrow. Grab your tickets for the cohort. And yeah, that's it. Y'all have a good
I
night.
can't wait to see y'all.
Yes.
Good night.
Bye.